Right. I have something to say. So
Yeah.
growing up, up until this point, up until I started reading Unseen Realm, I'm 42 years old right now. I've always believed that you had a God with a myriad of angels, right? And then you had Satan with a myriad of demons. And then you had us in the middle as this earth. And that's it. There was nothing else.
Right.
There's nothing else to consider, nothing else to think of. But you cannot read the Old Testament in that sense. You cannot. Nope. You can't. So I do have a question though for you. Would you put a hierarchy in the evil world, the demonic world, as far as like Satan above these other Elohim, these other gods, or or is it just another one of him, or lower than? I mean, that's a position of where Satan is in all of this. That's the question I have,
bro. It almost seems like Lucifer was one of the, if not the top guy in heaven, right? In God's throne room, in his council, in whatever you want to call it. There's some real interesting reading to be had in Ezekiel. We read this last time with the boys about where God tells Lucifer that you were the most beautiful guardian cherubim. Let me see where it's at. Just search.
Let me just pull it up.
I forget the exact verse, but do a search real quick for stones of fire, Ezekiel, and that'll pull up the passage. And this will give you context for who Lucifer is. Dude, but we are kind of getting out of the book. Or out of the
book. But it's kind of cool though, because, well, my question kind of pushed us out of the book.
And now I want to go down like this rabbit hole.
Let's go for a little bit.
I want to go deep into the rabbit hole. To answer your question while you're searching, I don't know. I almost want to say that he is one of the fallen Elohim, okay? But he also might have had authority over all of the other Elohim. He might have been God's like right-hand guy. You know what I mean? Because the angelic, when created, right? So before they became demons, fallen, all that stuff, there was an order to them. There was an order of hierarchy. There was actually, they had responsibilities. They weren't just created to like sing songs, you know what I mean? For eternity. They actually had responsibilities, tasks that they were assigned. And it seems like Lucifer had one of the most important jobs. He led the worship of God in the heavenly places, in the throne room of God.
Right.
Boom. Okay. So scroll down a little bit. So this is Ezekiel 28. This is where we get a description of Lucifer. Keep going a little bit. Keep going. Okay, hold on. Scroll up a little bit. Okay, so right there. So Ezekiel 28, verse 11. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Real quick, it's saying this is to the king of Tyre, because up until now, Ezekiel has been prophesying against the physical ruler, the prince of Tyre, who was actually calling himself a god and saying that he is higher than other gods and blah, blah, blah. So the prince of Tyre, the actual ruler, is trying to equate himself with God. So now Ezekiel starts prophesying not against the prince of Tyre. Now he's prophesying against the king of Tyre. So the one behind and over the prince of Tyre. And these are the words to him, who, what a coinkerdinker, also said he's a god and that he's going to ascend the throne and be higher than the other gods. Both of them did the exact same thing. The prince of Tyre, who's a human who was ruling, but also the king of Tyre, who was Lucifer, who was in the other dimension. And they both get chastised the exact same way. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. carnelian, crystalline, emerald, topaz, onyx, jasper, lapis lazuli, tranquilin, laburo, lamer. So all the stones. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherubim, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked amongst the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways. From the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mountain of God, and I expelled you, guardian cherubim, from amongst the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made you a spectacle of you before I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made fire come out from you, and it consumed you. And I reduced you to ash on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. All the nations who know you were appalled at you. You had come to a horrible end and will be no more. So that's Lucifer. That's
crazy stuff.
So that's a description of the fall of Lucifer. And that is in contrast to the Prince of Tyre, who also said that he was the Most High God.
Right.
And both of them, if you read the Prince of Tyre passage, it says that we don't have to. It says that that he's going to die just like every other man. And what a coincidence! It says that Satan is going to die just like every other man. So they're both, their end is the same, right? So anyway, that is, we don't really have that kind of explanation about any other Elohim or divine being. You know, that's the most detail we get in the Bible. Dude, not even of an angel.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So it says that this guy was perfect. It says that he was full of wisdom. It talks about the garments that God created for him with those precious stones and the gold working and all that kind of stuff.
I wonder why I wonder why they're so specific on the jewels. Do you ever think of that? Because they're very specific, and they do that a lot in the Bible. It's not just.
I have theories. I don't know if it's...
I would love to hear it.
Okay.
Tell me your theory on stones and precious stones. I'd love to hear it, Ben. I have no theory.
Is it good? Should we do this now for... Okay, listen, we'll crop this out.
Let it roll, buddy.
Hey, we'll crop this out.
Let it roll.
And we'll post it as its own video. Okay?
Yeah.
So, bro, oh, dude, this is
wild. Tell me your...
This is just my theory.
Tell me your... theory on stones and jewels.
This is just my theory, okay? I'm reading between the lines. I'm hypothesizing. People are going to probably get on my case and tell me that I'm a heathen and going to hell. Okay. But listen to Dennis. Anyway. Totally. Who cares? Listen to Dennis, Bennis the Menace podcast, read Unseen Realm. Maybe it'll make a little more sense for you down the line. But, okay, pull up the, pull it up. Pull it up.
We got to pull it up. I agree.
Pull up that passage again. Okay.
Yeah.
Right so there you go.
Right
okay.
Eden.
So let me just summarize this for you. Okay. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. So first off, when it talks about the seal of perfection in the original language, that seal of perfection is also a word that's used, or at least the seal part. It's used as the term for a signet ring. You know, you would seal documents, you would seal scrolls with the wax, and then they'd have to break it. So this guy was the sealer of perfection, or he sealed something full of beauty and wisdom. Okay. He was in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone, carnelian, crystallite, emerald, topaz, blah, 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 were for him or for his clothing. Your mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. So he's got a list of, how many is that? Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Okay. These are, it's not all of them, but these are actually the same stones minus, I think, 3 that are on the breastplate of the high priest in the Old Testament. Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do another Google
So,
search real quick. Search breastplate, high priest breastplate, something like that, so that we get a visual for what we're talking about. So these stones, I thought there was more than 9, but now I'm just counting the 9. These are some of the same stones, if not all the same stones, that are on the breastplate that the high priest would wear. This breastplate and this garment that the high priest wore was specifically mandated by God when he gave the orders of how to build a temple, how to build their clothing. Dude, the detail that you find there's whole books of the Bible dedicated to just like the wood to use and the gold to use and the rocks to use and the kind of wool or yarn to use. So God was really, really specific about the details of these kinds of things. What's interesting is that these same stones are found here. And bro, who's wearing them? Who were they prepared for? Lucifer. Before he fell, actually before he sinned. On the day that he was created, these things were given to him. Okay. So we've got the fact that he's he's got the connotation of some kind of signet ring or sealer of perfection. Okay. That he wears the same stones or some of the same stones as the high priest in the temple. Go back to the passage real quick. Every precious stone, you're setting your mountain of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. Go down a little bit. You were anointed as a guardian cherubim, for I ordained you. So he was a guardian cherubim in Eden, okay? And he was a sealer or a signet of perfection. And it says in verse 14, the second half, you were on the holy mountain of God. These are 2 separate places. Eden and the holy mountain of God are 2 separate places. If you want to get into that a little deeper, I would suggest just do a quick Google search of holy mountain of God, and you'll find that that's typically referring to, this is pretty crazy, that's typically referring to God's dwelling place, okay? Eden was not God's dwelling place. Eden was the garden where God put Adam and Eve, right? Coincidentally, who else was in the Garden of Eden? Lucifer, the guardian cherubim. He says, I placed you in the garden. He was there too. So was Adam and Eve.
Right.
That's weird. Before he sinned, he was there. Okay. While he was still perfect and sinless, he was there. But it says, you were also on the mountain of God. So, and then here's a trippy part. You walked amongst the fiery stones. There's 2 references in the Bible to this term, fiery stones or stones of fire. They're both right here in this passage. Okay. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked amongst the fiery stones. Scroll down a little bit. So I drove you in disgrace, verse 16. So I drove you in disgrace from the mountain of God. I expelled you, guardian cherubim, from among the fiery stones. What the heck are the fiery stones?
I don't know.
We don't know, but they have an association with the mountain of God. And it says that Lucifer, after he sinned, was expelled from the fiery stones. That's interesting. So go up a little bit. You were, verse 15, you were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mountain of God and I expelled you, guardian cherubim, from the fiery stones. Where it says, through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. That word where it says widespread trade, that's referring to his roles, his position, his tasks. So because of what he did for God, it says that he was filled with violence and he sinned. And later it says, because of your wisdom and your splendor and all of that, actually, we could hit that in verse 17. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So because of what he was doing, his role, somehow he turned his role from God facing and leading into the worship of God to taking away from God's glory, leading to himself, to his own wisdom, to his own beauty, right? So he used his tasks and he used his skills and his trade to take away from God's glory rather than give glory to God. And then he gets thrown.
I think this is so. Look at this. So I made a fire come out of you and consumed you. That's so crazy.
Right. I reduced you to ash on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. So there was other things watching, okay, when he made an example of this guy. All the nations who knew you were appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end. You will be no more. Okay, so theories. Ready? We've got Lucifer in the garden. We've got Lucifer, who also had access to the mountain of God, which is God's dwelling place, his throne room, whatever you want to call. Two separate places. I highly, highly doubt that that the mountain of God, which Lucifer had access to, I highly doubt that that is on earth or was on earth. I think Eden was on earth, and I think the mountain of God is outside of earth, other dimension, other realm, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And Lucifer had access to both. I think where it talks about the stones of fire 2 times, it says you were amongst the stones of fire. I cast you out from amongst the stones of fire. This is where it gets weird. Okay. Don't judge me. Don't kick me out of church, please. I think the stones of fire is a reference to some kind of gateway, portal, whatever you want to call it, between Eden and the mountain of God. I think that might have been from our perspective here on earth, angels just appear, right? There's nothing, and then they appear, and people are like, ah! And he's like, hey, fear not, I come in peace, whatever, right? From their perspective, from God's throne room, there might be some kind of thing they go through to pop into 3D, okay?
Yeah.
What a coinkerdinker that the only time the stones of fire are mentioned in the Bible are in reference to Lucifer, who had access to Eden and the mountain of God, and that he was cast out from amongst the stones of fire. And guess what? His access to the mountain of God is no more.
Right.
Okay, it's cut off. I think later it actually says he doesn't let him come back to the mountain of God. Lucifer, by trying to ascend and glorify himself, actually got demoted. He got demoted. He was no longer allowed on the mountain of God. He was no longer allowed to pass through the stones of fire if they were truly a portal. I also think that it's interesting that he calls Lucifer a mighty guardian cherubim and the sealer of perfection, the sealant ring of perfection. So you get this notion that he seals something and that he guards something. Could he have been the guardian of the gateway between Eden and the mountain of God? And then as a punishment, when he tried rebelling, he literally lost access to the gateway that he was set to protect and guard. You know what I mean? And not only that, why are those stones on him? Why are those specific stones given to him? And why are those specific stones ordered by God to be worn by the high priest in the temple? What's the connection between Lucifer and his garment and the high priest and his garment? What's the connection? There is a connection, right?
I don't know.
Do you think it's a coincidence? Do you think God?
No, there's definitely a connection.
You don't think God could have just been like, granite,
right?
diamond? What are some other stones, like concrete? Like God could have said anything, okay? But he didn't. He specifically lists the same stones that the high priest wears. Not all of them, I'll grant you that. So this could be a stretch, right? What did the high priest do? The high priest led people into the worship of God in the temple, right? That was his responsibility. The high priest also was the only one that had access to the Holy of Holies. Okay.
Right.
And if he didn't ritually cleanse himself, if he didn't follow this whole list of things he had to do before going in to the Holy of Holies, he would be struck down dead. Hey, guess what? If he wasn't wearing his little 12 stones, he would have been struck down dead. Okay. So in a sense, the high priest is also one that accesses the presence of God. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like Lucifer did. So all of that is reading between the lines, but I'm just trying to piece together in a way that makes sense for my brain to understand a bunch of really weird dots that are unconnected in that passage in Ezekiel. Okay. Don't kick me out of church. Please don't make a response video talking about how crazy I am.
Crazy.
Just let me have let me have some fun. Let me think about some things. I'm not telling you to believe this. Read your own Bible. I'm not your pastor.
I don't think it's crazy.
Okay, cool.
I do have another question though. So, Lucifer at this time is in a different dimension, this different realm, and this is happening. Because he doesn't have a physical body like we do. So the stones are physical. But what's on him? If the stones are physical on a priest, what is it physically on a being?
What if the stones are, don't get mad. What if the stones are actually the key, to open and unopen this portal? What if he had to be wearing them the same way the high priest has to be wearing them to be able to enter the presence of God? What if he had to be wearing them?
But he has to be able to
transcend.
Close? He would have to be able to transcend between that dimension to have a physical jewel or stone, right? Or is there something that these stones represent in the other dimension?
Dude,
so there's
very
a stone
possible.
Here is
very
onyx
possible.
on their shoulder, but maybe onyx in a different dimension actually has some kind of power, and maybe that's why these days with this new agey stuff, right? They're like, oh, the stones, have this stone brings. I mean, I'm wearing something that someone gave me. I don't know what it is. I should know because they tell me this over and over again, and I always forget. And I don't know what it is. I just wear it because I like it. I don't know. It doesn't do anything. I actually have a couple of them, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is gonna bring you, safety or whatever, some shit."
Okay,
and
let
I'm
me
like,
just
cool.
Let me just tell you real quick. I know it looks cool, bro. Throw that crap away. All that stuff, all that new agey stones, crystals, all that kind of stuff, dude. That stuff is like dedicated to demons. Like the manufacturer.
But we just
What?
Yeah, but we just talked about like stones and like in the Bible, like how they're worn on the priest's breastplate and stuff. Like, like, okay, I have one that's onyx. Actually, it's somewhere here. I only wear this because I like them, and it has nothing to do with like a spiritual thing. But this is a black one. This is all onyx.
So it has nothing to do. It has nothing spiritual for you, no spiritual connotation for you.
Yeah.
But it does to the person that gave it to you, So they actually think that there is some kind of power behind those stones.
Yeah, but I have the blood of Jesus covering me.
Very
and I
true.
have the Holy Spirit inside. I mean, there's no power of the devil anywhere in my life. This is maybe like, in my mind he can get here, but he can't.
But it's like bringing in an idol from a tribe in Africa that they were just worshiping, and you're like, it's got no power. I believe in Jesus. Yeah, but maybe it doesn't need to be in your house. Maybe there's other bracelets you could wear. Maybe there's other decor you could hang up on your wall. I know, me too. Listen, I'm just speaking out loud. I don't really know if that's how it works. And the stones that we just talked about are stones that Yahweh commanded the high priest to wear. So if God's telling you to go wear some freaking bling on your chest, I'm sure you'll be fine, But if it's somebody else or something else, I wouldn't listen. But throw it away. Dude, I think it might be, I don't know. I struggle with this too. So we believe in Dude, so much for a freaking unseen realm. We'll get there.
We'll get
We'll
back
go
to it.
back. We're gonna clip this, and
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
make it its own. So we believe in some sort of layered structure to reality. Okay, we believe that there is here and now, this realm, this dimension, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and then we believe in the supernatural realm, the supernatural dimensions, whatever you want to call it, wherever God is, wherever the angels are, wherever the demons are. If you're a Christian, you believe in some sort of structure to reality that is
Sure.
unseen. Okay. Um, Interestingly enough, scientists and physicists and whatever, these smarties would call these, from a mathematical and physical perspective, they call them dimensions. Okay. So when we use the term dimension, we're going to be referring to the structures of reality. Okay. You could
Right.
call them
Right.
whatever you freaking want. We're talking about the same thing. Interestingly enough,
Sure.
math and physics actually proves that there has to be additional dimensions, additional realms in order for our math and our physics to exist and to operate the way they do. And that's science. That's not like Christianese. That's literally what academia has proven in this day and age, is that there's
Right.
other things, other dimensions unseen that we actually cannot perceive because we're limited by
Right.
our eyes,
And
arms,
and just to
flesh.
just to correlate, like dimension, realm, heavens, right? You're
Yeah,
talking about all the same,
correct.
just different terminology. So yeah, okay, just to clarify.
Same concept, different words. Okay, because people
Right.
3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when writing the books of the Bible, did not have the term dimension. What they did use was the term heavens, plural.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Paul
plural.
says,
Right.
I knew a guy who was taken up to the third heaven.
Third heaven. Yeah.
Okay. Go see how many times the word heavens, plural, is used in the Bible.
Right.
It's actually pretty
Sure.
crazy.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
All over, bro. And so that's what I mean by the word dimension. So bear with me. Okay. So it's hard for me to, and I struggle with this. When things like this are described in the Bible, where he's like, hey, Lucifer, on the day that I created you, I gave you onyx, topaz, lapis, lazuli, all ordained in gold. They were made for you when I put you in Eden, or the day you were created. In my mind, I'm like, are there stones in other dimensions? Like the fourth dimension, just mathematically, the fourth dimension is not physical, or the fifth dimension, because people will say the fourth dimension is time. Okay.
Time. Yeah.
And they'll say that third and fourth dimensions are referred to as time and space because they're interlinked. There can't be matter, there can't be space, which is our dimension, the third, without time, because there has to be a forward and back, a beginning and end to matter. It's not eternal. Okay. So anything outside of time, anything in the fifth dimension and higher, Mordecai is eternal, which is what the Bible says. Right. So is there a need for, so let's say the fifth dimension is the next dimension, right? Fourth is time. So the fifth dimension is the next one. That's like a physical one. Maybe, I don't know if it is physical. Maybe it's a vibration dimension. Maybe it's an energy dimension. Maybe it's, we don't know. We don't know what that dimension would look like, right? Maybe it's a consciousness dimension where there is no physical. It's just thought. It's just, what are thoughts? Like, we don't know what thoughts are. Okay. What are ideas? What are dreams? We don't know what any of those things are. Maybe it's just that. All that to say, we don't know. But are there rocks? You know what I mean?
We're stuck on the rocks.
You know
We're
what I
stuck
mean?
on the stones.
Okay,
man.
so hold on. Rocks are here. Rocks are in this dimension. Okay.
Right.
But are there rocks in the other dimensions? I don't know. I actually don't think so. I think that this breastplate or this garment, whatever was made, the stones and the gold that ordained Lucifer, it might have been what he used, again, just going off of the gatekeeper analogy or theory, it might have been what he used from here on earth to access the stones of fire or to open that portal. What it looks like physically in the other realm, I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know what that would be. I don't know if it disintegrates. I don't know if it just becomes waves and particles and it only
maybe they can
amasses
hold
when
the essence. Maybe it's the essence of the stone that they hold, like like whatever the stone represents, I don't know, but it's kind of cool. But it doesn't,
cool.
it just, yeah, it's confusing though, because it's like he had this stuff, but he's in a different realm, but it talks about stones.
Well, okay, here's another way to think about this. And again, just theorizing.
Right.
These are visions that Ezekiel has. These are visions Isaiah has. These are visions that John have of these other realms. How else would they be able to perceive or understand if God doesn't make it appear in terms that they would have experienced here on earth?
Right.
How would John have written about, Ezekiel here, when he sees a vision of what's going on in a fifth unphysical dimension, where it's just, let's just go with what? Waves? Let's just go with energy. How would John have described energy in human words from a three-dimensional perspective? It seemed like light. Okay.
Well, just to be fair, I think in this case.
Okay. Go ahead.
I understand. In this case though, he's not seeing, he's being told these things, right? Because it says, I have spoken, the word of the Lord came to me. So do you think he's seeing that when he says that? Or because that's how it starts.
Ooh, that's
the
a
word
good
of the
term
Lord
too.
came to me.
I mean, that's a good point too.
So yeah, I think he's being told this. But I understand what you're saying, because John in Revelation, right? I mean, he's trying to explain
Isaiah, Ezekiel, and other places.
Right?
All of the prophets have
lots of them. Daniel,
visions.
Right.
Okay.
But in this specific case, he was told.
Yeah, it could be that he's just told these words. But again, even still, if God is telling him to describe something from 5D, from the fifth dimension, which let's again just use energy. It could be anything. It could be physical. We don't know, but we're just going off energy. If God's like, it is a light beam, like, okay, how's Ezekiel going to describe that? What if, again, God uses 3D words and experiences that people would have been able to conceptualize and understand to describe the truths of what is happening in those dimensions.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's actually, dang, who was something that stuck out to me. What's the dude's name? Come on, Lex Friedman. Okay. I was listening to a Lex Friedman podcast, and I don't know what the guy was, but he was some doctorate, some PhD, blah, blah, blah. He was saying that and they're all about, evolution, all that kind of stuff. So he was saying human beings and our physical senses, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our hands, our body, everything, we have evolved in a way to best interpret the reality around us in order to better or to enable like ourselves to procreate, right? Because that's what evolution's about, is to pass on your genes. So he's basically making he's bringing this idea to being that our eyes developed in a way that could only perceive things that help us procreate better. And he was actually saying there's no way to deny that there's not a whole lot more going on physically on this planet that we can't perceive with our senses, because it doesn't help us in procreation at all. Okay. I don't believe the whole evolution thing. I don't believe it's all about procreation. I don't believe all of that. However, I do believe that God created us in a particular chemical balance and with particular physical traits and characteristics to experience the third dimension as he saw fit for us to experience as human beings. Okay.
Mm.
And so with that, we don't see all the light spectrum. We don't hear all the wave spectrums, right? We know this. We know this.
Yeah. Sure.
And so in that same way of thinking, and I only brought up that guy not to endorse him, but because it kind of helped me like, oh shoot, even from like a naturalistic, like non-spiritual perspective, from an evolutionary perspective, even these guys are like, oh, there's a lot more going on, but we just don't have the capacities to register those events, right? Or those waves or whatever. So maybe God uses the chemical and physical balance that he created for us. Maybe he uses those same traits to reveal to us things from there that they're not really like that, but it's the only way that we would be able to perceive them. You know what I mean? And to comprehend them. So he limits himself, and he limits those dimensions for our understanding, you know? So I don't think that there might have really been rocks that Lucifer wore in the fifth dimension. I don't know what it looks like up there, but the way that Ezekiel understood the concept of his splendor and beauty was by God describing the gold and the rocks and the adornment of his garments and how spectacular they were, you know? So the message and the truth is connoted to Ezekiel, even though physically those things didn't really need to exist. So, listen, that's just me thinking. I don't know. It could be. There could be rocks up there. You know, it could physically be exactly what's described. But that's just me thinking out loud. And it's something I struggle with and I think about, you know.
It's okay. It's okay to struggle and think about this stuff. Like, we don't have to have all the answers.
It's fun.
Well, you know, it's also, it keeps our mind, you know, focused right on how big God is and how little we understand, right? And what's awaiting for us, you know, how exciting is that to like be able to, I mean, I'm so excited as a believer, right? To be able to know like my future holds all these mysteries. Like I get to experience and understand all this stuff. Well, I hope at least a lot of it, at least a lot more than I know now. And how cool is that? Like I got so much to look forward to, right? Like it's really exciting. We don't just die.
Yeah. Yeah.
We live forever, man. This is so cool.
Let me give you 2 examples where God doesn't diminish the realms in order to express himself. Okay. Pull up Ezekiel 1.
I like it.
This is what happens when it's not so cut and dry. But hey, here's a counterpoint to the point I just made. Okay. Interestingly enough, when the apostles asked Jesus, teach us how to pray, and he teaches them the Lord's Prayer, and he says, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And then you get all those passages in the Old Testament where God hands down entire books of the Bible, demanding that they build the temple this way, with this linen, with these stones, with this gold, with this wood, right? It needs to look like this and look like this and look like this. So he says all this stuff. And then you read in Revelation and in Ezekiel and in Isaiah, where there's other visions of God's throne room. It looks like what he's commanding them to build here on earth. So Jesus's prayer of on earth as it is in heaven is literally what God's commanding them to build when he orchestrates the construction of the temple. It looks the same.
That's crazy to me.
Okay.
That's
Maybe it does look like that. Maybe that is physically what it looks like, you know? And to be honest with you, that is kind of where I'm leaning towards. I'm leaning towards that there is some kind of physicality up there. And It might not be flesh and blood. It might be something else, you know. But we don't know. Okay, so check this out. Scroll down a little bit. This is Ezekiel. Keep going. Okay, boom. Actually, I'm sorry. Go up a little bit. Up, right there. As I watch Ezekiel, what is this, 1 verse 4? As
Yeah.
I watched, I
Yeah.
noticed a windstorm coming from the north, an enormous cloud with lightning flashing, such that bright light rimmed it and came from it like glowing amber from the middle of a fire. In the fire were what looked like 4 living beings. In their appearance, they had human form. Each had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, but the soles of their feet were like calves' feet. They gleamed like polished bronze. They had human hands under their wings on their 4 sides. As for their faces and wings, of the 4 of them, their wings touched each other. They did not turn as they moved, but went straight ahead. Their faces had this appearance. Each of the 4 had the face of a man, with the face of a lion on the right, the face of an ox on the left, and also the face of an eagle. Their wings were spread out above them. Each one had 2 wings touching the wings of one of the other being on either side of the 2 wings covered their bodies. This is what it looks like when God doesn't make it so cut and dry and just say, you are a guardian cherubim. This is what it looks like when somebody tries describing the cherubim, not just in human form, because there's other angels that appear and it's just a dude. And he's like, hey, leave your cell, or standing on top of the tomb after Jesus was raised. And it's just, it's
Right.
an angel.
Crazy,
you
like
know,
this.
they have physical form and they look like humans, right? This is what angels appear like when God doesn't minimize them for us to comprehend. Okay, go to Revelation 21.
So cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of where my mind's at on this topic. Is sometime God allows it to be simple for us to comprehend. Sometimes he doesn't minimize it so that you're just like, what? It's way more glorious than you thought, right? Okay,
absolutely.
Here's another example. Revelation 21. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and earth had ceased to exist, and the sea existed no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, made ready like a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, the residence of God is amongst human beings. He will live amongst them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe away every tear from their eye. Death will not exist anymore. No mourning, nor crying, no pain, nor former things have ceased to exist. And one seated on the throne said, look, I am making all things new. Keep going. Let me see. Let me get to the part. Scroll down a little bit more. Scroll down. Okay, stop. Verse 9. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 final plagues came and spoke to me, saying, come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. So he took me in the spirit to a where'd it go? Saying, come, I'll show you that.
Sorry.
In the spirit to a huge, majestic mountain, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, descending out of heaven to God. The city possessed the glory of God. Its brilliance is like precious jewels, like a stone of crystal, clear jasper. It has a massive high wall with 12 gates, with 12 angels at the gates, and the names of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel are written on the gates. There are 3 gates. Keep going down a little bit. There are 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, 3 gates on the west. The wall of the city has 12 foundations. On them is the 12 names of the 12 apostles. The angel who spoke to me had a golden measuring rod with which he measured the city and its foundation stones and walls. Now the city is laid out as a square. Its length and width are the same. He measured the city and with the measuring rod at 1,400 miles. Its length and width and height are equal. As for the wall, it measured 144 cubits according to human measurement, which is also the angels. What?
It's crazy.
You think God couldn't have just let John just see like a new skyscraper city, like a new building on the ground? No, he doesn't make it so easy for him. He actually shows him what it's really going to be or really going to look like. And actually, how crazy. Check it out. The freaking verse 19, the foundations of the city wall are decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation is jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the fourth emerald, the fifth onyx, the sixth carnelian, the seventh, and the 12th, blah, blah, blah. So if I'm not mistaken, those, and I haven't looked at this, I have a feeling those are the 12 stones that are on the breastplate of the high priest.
Yeah, we should definitely compare that and see. But that would make a lot of sense. And you know what also makes sense, Ben, based on your theory of like maybe it's a key to transcend.
Yeah,
maybe that's why this house came, because it comes from heaven, right? To earth. Maybe because with all the stones, it's able to move back and forth. I don't.
Oh, dude, no.
Maybe it's
think about it. Think about this. This thing is God's house, and it comes down to earth, where the nations on the new heaven, new earth, right? God's people will dwell with God. And it says that they'll come into the New Jerusalem. They'll bring offerings to him. They'll eat of the tree of life in the New Jerusalem. Okay. All of that happens inside of that building. Hey, guess what? There's no need for a key. Jesus is there present.
Yeah.
You are his people. We dwell with him. Where my Father is, there are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. If it wasn't so, I would tell you. I don't think he's exaggerating. Bro, look at that thing.
It's crazy because
I feel like I'm Jehovah's. I feel like I'm Jehovah's Witness right now looking at this stuff. You know how they've got all those weird, crazy like images and diagrams, and you're like, oh, you guys. That's what I feel like right now. But I love it.
But this is insane.
I freaking love it. Okay, where's a good one where it shows the size of this thing sitting on planet Earth? So this is a one right there. Perfect. First one. This is a 1,400 or 500 mile cube. That's what it would look like compared to America. That's going to be God's house that comes down from the freaking sky.
That's insane, man. Bro, that's just
I'm so stoked. I know it's crazy. That's why it's the best, because it's crazy. All these dorks that think they've got it all figured out and they've got it all wrapped up with a freaking bow tie, whether you believe in God or not, check out God's house. You don't know.
Look at this. Look how big this
stuff. Is. You don't know anything. Oh my God. I can't wait. Man. If you freaking believe in aliens and UFOs and all that kind of crap, you should lean towards being Christian right now.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
we own it. This is all us, baby.
We got all this stuff. Yeah, we got all the
this is all us.
Look at this.
We've got UFOs. So cool. We've got lights in the sky. It says that he comes as an angel of light. Actually, the demonic, the evil comes as an angel of light. Lights in the sky appearing, telling people who knows what kind of crap. That's all us. Bro, we own this stuff, man.
So sick, man. I love it. All right, that was a good tangent there,
dude. That was
an
hour. That was
let's get
hour.
back. Let's get back into
I don't even know where we were. Right. We read like one sentence.
No. We did more than that. Hang on. So we got.
How did we get there?
I don't know. The stones stopped us. Well, no, because that was way before the stones. Yeah, we stopped a long time ago. The Pantheon, because you said, look, like Pantheon of Gods, and I started looking up stuff, and then
okay, yeah, I'm sure if we look at this again, it'll make sense over the past hour, like how we came from Pantheon to freaking a 1,500 mile cube.
But this is all part of and whoever's watching this, excuse us, because this is the excitement that we have. Ben and I have after reading this book. it like opens your mind to like all these different
Yeah.
things and possibilities and and then you're like, oh, this is what he's talking about. And then
Yeah.
you find and then you just Google it and you find a cube.
Yeah.
When Ben first told me this, and I thought he was crazy. I was like, what are you talking about, dude?
I still
And then
think I'm
then
crazy.
you sent me well, we all are a little bit, but
Yeah.
like you sent me this cube thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then you sent me the scripture. I'm like, what have I've read this my whole life. Like, how do I
Dude,
not? Oh,
exactly. And that's what this book is going to do over and over and over
Yeah.
again. It's going to make this claim where you're like, bro, what is this guy smoking? And then he's going to give you all of the scripture that backs it up. And you're like, I wasn't taught this at school or at church or at.
And then the next thing I do is I go and I try to attempt to talk to somebody about it, and I totally muff it up,
Yeah.
Like I'm like so bad. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
just read the freaking book.
Yeah, exactly. And so then the very next logical step to do is to start a podcast on the topic and try to explain it to thousands of people.
Well, we're here now. No backtracking.
That makes sense.
Let's just dive right back into it, man. Let's go.